Okay. Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. Tonight is about teaching the class. So we're going to be going through all the things that you need to, first of all, prepare for the class, teach a successful class, and with all the tips as well that we've kind of picked up along the way. We're going to share you all of our secrets that we've discovered. So first of all, let me just start the slideshow. That's better. So accountability from last week, I asked you to prepare at least 20 samples of common ailments and set 4 class dates and invite the upline to help, and then to also create your spreadsheet and to start sampling. So hopefully if you hadn't already started, you've been doing some good samples and having some great experiences with that. Okay, here we go. So the skills to master with this class is how to get people to come to a class, how to prepare for the class, how to teach a class, how to introduce LRP, so the Loyalty Rewards Program in the class. We'll be going through that. Some tips for closing, how to book further classes, as that's a key part of never running out of contacts. So we'll discuss that in a little bit of detail. And then, of course, how to introduce the business in a class. So first of all, how to get people to a class. Well, first of all, as we spoke about last week, it's very important to sample them first, if at all possible. If you cannot sample everybody, then try your best to sample 50% of the people coming. It will just add credibility to your class and it definitely affects the amount of people that purchase. We have definitely found that. Also, it's a good idea to send them a link, because remember, it takes at least 4 exposures to the oils in some shape or form before they're going to purchase some oils. That's the average, and it can be up to 12. So as many exposures as you give them before the class is, of course, best. Now, you want to, when you invite them, you want to create interest in the invite. So what I mean by this is, as you invite them, give them enough information to kind of get their interest. So you've talked about you've sampled an oil with them, and you can say there's so many things these oils can do, they're incredible, and list a lot of ailments that they can help with, and then say, I'll be sharing all about this in the class and more. And especially if they suffer from a particular ailment, then say, we'll be addressing what oil you can use to help with respiratory conditions if they have that as a problem. And then also say how you'll be teaching them the basics of how they can use these oils so that they can be empowered by the end of the class to go and use this both on themselves and with their family. So really kind of get that enthusiasm going in the invite. Now, the next one is optional. So you can offer them a free gift, and Wild Orange is an option. It's a very good option, because you can buy what's called the Empower Kit, which is located on your doTERRA back office. So you can find that under the kit section. And this basically, you can get, I think it's 30 wild oranges for about £20. So you get a lot of wild oranges for not very much money, and they're 5 ml bottles. So it's definitely something that's affordable that you can give, because remember, all these things that you do, you want to make sure are duplicable. Now, we talked about this a little bit, but you're going to want to send them an email reminder a couple of days before the class, and then just a simple text on the day of the class, just saying how you're looking forward to seeing them. Now, if you feel a bit funny about this, don't, because the NHS, they're doing it. Everyone's doing it at the moment. I get reminders all the time about different appointments that I have. So it's just good, because as a busy mum, and everybody's busy, we do forget. So even though people are really keen on coming to your class, they may forget. And so this will just help give them a reminder and make sure they don't miss it. So how would you then prepare for a class? So you've chosen your dates. I suggest choosing at least 2 dates so that you give an option. And for each of your classes, I recommend giving at least 2 hours for a class. I say at least 2 hours is pretty much the maximum you need to give. But if you say the class is about an hour, because that's what we're going to teach in a second, is to do a class for about an hour, but it always, takes some time at the end to then speak with each individual. And you don't want people to have that time limit where they're thinking it's just an hour or an hour and a half, and you don't get a chance to talk to them at the end. That's such a shame when people have to leave and you don't really get to address their personal needs. So I find if you give at least 2 hours for a class, then people will schedule that in. And if it takes a quick amount of time, if it's shorter, then that's always good. But it's never good to go beyond what you've said. So you're going to need to book a venue. And if not your home, then obviously you need to book a venue. And then organise who is teaching and assisting. So you need to obviously do this ahead of time. So contact your upline, contact other team members if you've got people in your team, your downline coming to help. Just make sure you've liaised with them. Then once you've got all this in place, you're going to want to send your invites. Now I suggest sending them to at least 10 people. It's depending on how big you want to do your class. Typically a class in a home, you're going to have the maximum 10 people. And you want to invite 10 people then, because about 50% will turn up. So if it's just you on your own, then the amount of people that you can really handle is about 3 to 4. So I recommend 3 to 4 guests per business person. So if you've got your upline coming, then you can have 6 to 8. So just depending on how many of you are there. But always invite double the amount, because pretty much every time it's 50% that will come to the class. So the invites need to be face-to-face rather than a text or an email or Facebook. You can do the follow-ups that way and reminders, but the initial invite is either face-to-face or over the phone if you can't do face-to-face. This just makes it a lot more personal, and you can really get the enthusiasm in there and the genuine enthusiasm really that doesn't quite come across on an email. And definitely don't just send a blanket invite, everybody on Facebook. You might get a couple of people coming, but we just haven't found that particularly very successful. People, this is quite a personal thing. We're not just trying to flog products. It's quite a personal process. And so we try and do that along the whole way. So from the sampling to the invite to the class as well. It's all quite personal. You then want to make sure you have the essential resources that you need, and we'll go through those in a second, and print, of course, those essential handouts, which we'll cover. Now, for your first classes, it will probably be a good idea, I know I did this when I first started, is to prepare some notes that you can refer to. They don't have to be word for word, but it gives you the confidence. And also people understand. You can tell them it's your first class and it keeps you on track. And then you can kind of go from there. And it's also very duplicable. So if somebody coming to your class sees you, with notes, then if they're thinking about perhaps doing the business, then it won't be daunting to them. So don't see it so much as a weakness, but actually it can be a very, very good strength. And then we covered that already, the email reminder. So that's put on twice because it's so important. So these are your essential class resources that you definitely need. When I say definitely, if you don't have the Lifelong Vitality Pack yet, then that's okay, or the Deep Blue Rub. But it is a great idea if you can have these things. But what you definitely need are some oils. And this can just be the physician's kit. I've put the Home Essential kit on there, but it could be the physician's kit. It's great to have a diffuser because that just adds ambience and another way that they can experience the oils, and also for them to see it so that when you come to closing and discussing what kit to buy, a lot of people will probably want a diffuser. You definitely want at least one of the reference books just to have on your table for people to refer to. And if possible, you're going to want to have the Lifelong Vitality Pack or the Nutrient Pack, so whichever one you're going to talk about. And then, of course, the Deep Blue, again, if you have that, we'll talk about that in a second, why that's a good thing to have at a class. And then coconut oil is a must, or any other carrier oil. It doesn't have to be coconut oil. Coconut oil is the one that doTERRA recommend because it complements the chemistry of the oils very well and doesn't have a strong odour. So that's a good one, but any oil will do. It's just there in case there's anyone with any sensitivities in the class, or if they get it in their eyes, you're going to want to put that on them. And then, of course, food. People love food, and it's a lovely, lovely way to get the oils into somebody and have them experience that. So again, something very simple. You could just have hummus with a couple of drops of lemon in. And we've actually found that homemade hummus doesn't taste as good with the lemon, so it's even easier. You just want to get some shop hummus. Make sure you don't put it in the plastic container, so put it into a glass dish and put your few drops of lemon in. And then some water as a refreshment. Now, the oils that we have found that work really lovely in the water is just pure lemon. So just 2 to 3 drops in the jug of water. Some grapefruit. You definitely need slightly less grapefruit than lemon. Grapefruit's quite a strong oil, and you don't want to overwhelm people when they're having their first experience. But what we really like in there is lime and ginger. So if you put a couple of drops of lime, so 3 drops of lime to 1 drop of ginger, really, that's about the ratio, and that's a lovely drink. And then you'd like to have your handouts. Okay, so these handouts you can get from your upline if you haven't already. The handouts that we like to use is we have an enrolment form where you can place your order. We also have a notes sheet, so a class note sheet, which just really is for them to make some notes, and it has a brief summary at the top where they can get their Modern Essentials book or the Essential Life book from. So it just has a couple of links for them, but mainly it's just for them to write notes. And then we have a feedback form, which we have found is really good, and we'll be talking about that quite a lot throughout the class. So those are the 3 handouts that we always share in our classes. And there are a couple of other options as well, which I'll talk about in a second. So here's some optional resources that you can have. I put the laptop on there because that is for your bigger classes. I wouldn't suggest doing a PowerPoint presentation for just your class in the home. It takes away the personal element, and it's too professional really for just a class setting, for a home setting. But if you're going to hire a venue and you've got a few more people coming and you want more of a professional feel, then I do recommend a PowerPoint because that brings that element into the class. It's a good idea to have clipboards and pens so people can make their notes quite comfortably. If you have the nutrient pack, so I've put that here, it's good to have that as well as the Lifelong Vitality pack, so you can bring that to a class. The A to Z guides, they're good to have as an option, just for people to have a look through, especially if you only have one of the books. So then if one person's looking at that, you have some other handouts you can give to people just to have a flick through. It's a good idea to maybe have some sampling bottles because there might be an opportunity to give some people a sample, and I'll address that a bit later. And then these are the other handouts that are an option to have, are your tear pads. So these can be purchased from Essent Oils, and they are very good for when you're first starting teaching your classes as well. So I still recommend probably having your note sheet for the first couple of classes, and then you can progress onto one of these tear pads. So the ones I recommend, there are 2 main tear pads I'd recommend, even though there's quite a few. When you look on Essent Oils, you'll see quite a variety. But when you first start doing classes, you're going to be focusing on the intro class. So I'd recommend either the Products Made Simple tear pad or the Edge Success Nature's Medicine cabinet. Those 2 both follow very well along the intro class. And they're just very good at keeping you focused, giving you prompts, and kind of giving you the main information you need. They're also quite nice to hand out to your guests as well, so they can follow along with you. This is, again, another option that you can have, especially in your bigger classes. And it's quite nice just to add a bit of colour as well. So these 2 are the main displays that you can buy from Essent Oils. So they're just quite nice. So one of the main things that you're going to want to have in your mind when you're teaching your class is this duplicable? And the reason I say that is because one of the main reasons you do a class is not just to find people that would like to be product users, but you are searching for people that would also like to do this as a business alongside yourself. So if people are going to come to your class, they want to be able to feel comfortable and not be put off that this is something huge that they're going to have to learn, or they have to put on this amazing spread of food. Or say you're a professional in a certain area and you bring a lot of your expertise in. There's nothing wrong with sharing a little bit of that to add credibility and such. But actually, you don't want to be caught in the trap of using that too much in your intro class. Maybe you do more of an advanced class where you can use your professional knowledge. Because that too is going to put other people off thinking, oh gosh, I have to be a nutritionist or a herbalist or something to be able to teach this class, when in actual fact you don't. The only things you have to be able to teach this class is a passion for the oils. You need to live the oils, get your own experience, and a passion for sharing them with others. And that's what we really want to get over to everybody in this class. So you really want to keep it simple, which is great for us because, it's easier for us anyway. So not too much information in the class either. Don't try and bring every product of doTERRA into your intro class, because that can be very overwhelming as well. And the class is long enough without doing that. So stick to the main oils in the physician's kit and the lifelong vitality. And like I said, with refreshments, keep them simple because we're looking for builders. Okay, so just before the class, try not to be stressed. I know that can be quite hard for some of us. Some of us don't get stressed, but some of us do. And we might be rushing around, doing that last bit of hoovering. The children are crying upstairs or whatever. Try to kind of just let things go and just leave things as they are. So if people start arriving, that is when you just need to stop what you're doing. It doesn't matter if things aren't quite finished or they're not as perfect as you were hoping they are. As long as you've got your oils and you're ready to invite guests into your home, and that's the main thing, because people do respond to people. So if you can just kind of relax, enjoy the evening and be warm and friendly and give people time rather than worrying about how you haven't hoovered properly or the display's not looking quite as good, and really kind of put your attention onto them, then they will feel that, and that will really help run a successful class. So try not to be stressed. Have a very simple display, we kind of mentioned that. Now, if only one or a few guests turn up, that has happened to me on a couple of occasions, and you do feel your heart kind of sink a bit, don't you? You kind of think, oh, where's so-and-so? And your mind can kind of go down that path. But really try and stop that, because again, the guests that are there will feel that from you, and they won't feel very important. They'll feel, oh, why didn't these people come? If you spend too long dwelling on that. So really don't worry about that. If one person turns up, then that's great. You can have a one-on-one with that person. You can really get down to some detail. So kind of turn it around. And if that is the case, just, say to them, because it might look like there's more guests arriving that you're expecting, you can just say, well, this has just worked out perfectly, because I love doing small classes as well, because I really get to spend time and make it more personalized. So just something simple like that to make them feel special. And if guests arrive early when you're cleaning, then try and stop, unless it's something really important. Try and stop what you're doing and just come and welcome your guests and give them some things to look through. So get them to come and smell the oils, get them to have a look through your Modern Essentials book or your A to Z guides, and just start the process there, start the journey for them and the experience. So here's a summary of an intro class. So you want the intro class to be about 1 hour in length. So this is kind of the summary of what you'd want it to look like. So you're going to spend about 10 minutes on the welcome and the intro, and we'll go through this in detail in a second. Your main teaching section is going to be about 35 minutes long. And then you really want to leave at least 10 to 15 minutes at the end for your close. And that's really important. If you take too long at the beginning bits, then you'll really feel people switching off by the end, and your sales will probably go down. You really need to be able to have some time to spend explaining how to purchase these oils. So in the welcome, you want to sample guests. So again, you can do this. If some guests arrive early, then get on with that part. So this is why I say having a deep blue tube there is really good, because what we'd like to do now in all of our classes is at the very beginning, we'll ask if anybody has any aches or pains anywhere, any back pain, any tension, anything like that at all. And if they do, then we'll put the deep blue on them at the beginning of the class. This way, we get to refer back to them when we address deep blue in the main teaching section. And often we'll have a really powerful experience that's actually in the class that everybody has been a part of. So that's really powerful. Another one to have is the past tense blend, if you have that. So if people have a headache, particularly tension across the shoulders or neck tension, and that's a really good one to put on them at the beginning of a class. And then serenity is another one that you can use if people don't have any pain. So I wouldn't use serenity because it's not as black and white as the other two. But the only reason I'd use serenity is if nobody in the class seems to have any pain or any tension, which is quite limited actually. Usually most people have something. Then you would use serenity. So serenity is a really good one just for kind of calming, and if people are feeling stressed, which I guess most people are these days. So that's just quite a nice one to put on people and get them to experience it. The idea of this is just to give as many people, another experience as you can. So hopefully most have been sampled and they've had a link sent to them. They've had a chance to look through some literature that you've shown them, like an A to Z booklet. And then when they come to your home, they're going to have all these wonderful experiences that just really add to this whole journey of their essential oil experience. So after you've done that, you'll then want to address your class and kind of begin your class. So welcome them and state the purpose of your class. So I've put here, live, share and build, because those are the 3 areas that as someone in the business that we want to help people with. So first of all, at the beginning of the class, you'll say, the purpose of this class is to help you feel empowered to be able to take these oils home and actually use them to help with your own health and those of the people you love around you. So that's your live goal. Then you want to address the share goal, which is simply, you say, and also there might be some of you in this class who are thinking of people that you want to help with these oils as well, or who need these oils. So at the end, I'll be very happy to come around and talk to you about them. And you can even offer to give them a free sample. So that's where the sampling comes in. And we'll address this again at the end. But you just say, if you have friends with particular ailments and you'd like to host a class, and then I'll be very happy to come to your home and I can give some samples for you to take away with you today to be able to give those people that are going to come to a class. So you've stated your share goal. And then I just briefly mention, and there might be some of you who, you listen to this and you're just also sharing so much in this passion, and you're really passionate about health and you think you could do this as well, then come and talk to me afterwards and we can talk about how you can do a business with doTERRA. So just really briefly kind of mention that. And while you're doing that, you can introduce the class handouts, because one of the class handouts on the feedback form, it has a little tick box for if you'd like to host a class, and also another tick box if you'd like to do the business. And so when I'm talking about the handouts, I'll again refer to that. So at the very, very beginning of the class, I will go through all of the handouts. So I'll say your first handout you've got is your note sheet, where you can just take as many notes as you would like. And if you refer to the top of your sheet, it talks about these 2 amazing books that you can purchase. And at that point, I'll hold up the books so they kind of see the books, and I'll refer to them throughout the class. And I'll really, really push this. And I'll say, for those of you that are going to be really serious about using essential oils, this is what you'll need. And this is all you'll need to be able to get you going. So feel free to come and have a look at this after the class. And then I'll talk about the enrollment form. And I'll just briefly mention it and say, at the end of the class, I'll be mentioning about how you can get your oils for the best price. So we'll be talking about that. And then I'll refer to the feedback form and then we ask that you please fill out this feedback form at the end of the class, because it helps us to know how we're doing. And also, if you'd like to host a class, you can just tick that box. And if you're interested in finding out more about the business side of doTERRA, then just tick the business box and we'll be happy to talk with you. So by doing all these things at the beginning of the class, we found that it kind of takes off that pressure at the end of the class, and it stops you kind of dreading all of that stuff. It's already out in the open. Everyone's expecting you to tell them about how to buy oils at the end. They're expecting you to mention about hosting a class, and they're expecting you to ask them about the business. So that's all done. Everybody knows what's coming, and it just runs very smoothly then. Okay, so after this, I'll then move on to just saying, that I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to be claiming to be, and I'm certainly not going to be diagnosing or prescribing anything. What we're here to do is just kind of share experiences of what we've experienced and to share what these oils are capable of doing. But we say that it's the body that actually heals itself. So the essential oils are there to help the body in that healing process. I'll then ask everyone, to have a show of hands if anyone's had a sampling experience. So as a host, I'll know that because I would have sampled them. So if I know for sure that people have had some good experiences with the oils, then I'll ask for that as a show of hands so people can kind of see how many people have had a good experience with the oils. And then this is when I'll go on and share my experience. And you really want to keep this to about 2 minutes. So really practice this, because it's very easy to make this long because you're passionate about your own experience. And this is your experience of how you came to find the oils, really. It's your first big experience. It doesn't have to be. You could share, some people like to share their most recent experience because we're obviously having experiences all the time. So just briefly share your own experience and why you decided to do the business. So that is all going to take 10 minutes. So not very long at all. Then you're going to move into the main part of the class, which of course you're going to start with what is an essential oil. So this first section of the class, again, is going to take you about 10 minutes. Because it's not the really interesting part, but it is very important. So you don't want to spend too long, but you want to make sure you address the main points. So these are the main points you're going to see on the screens here. So you want to discuss what is an essential oil. You're going to cover what's written on here. And you might want to add that they're 50 to 70 times more powerful than herbs. I like to say that. And I also like to say that they're the immune system of the plant. Then you want to address this very important question. So why would people choose doTERRA essential oils? So this is the answer. You want to briefly go through how doTERRA essential oils are certified pure therapeutic grade. And what this means is that they are guaranteed to be absolutely 100% pure. So they have no contaminants, no pesticides, no chemicals, nothing else in them apart from the oil. And doTERRA can guarantee this because of the extensive testing that is carried out on every single drop of oil. So it's important to note that they're not randomly tested, but every single essential oil, every single drop is thoroughly tested with 5 specific tests. And there are 3 phases of testing. And some of these are carried out of house as well. So they're done third party. And that helps people to realize that, that they're not just biased to doTERRA's testing. So that adds credibility to the testing as well. So that's the important points to cover so that people know they're absolutely safe. And then you want to address the potency of the oil as well and how this is assured by the sourcing so that we source every single oil from its natural habitat. Now that's really important when we refer back to the essential oil being the immune system of the plant, because obviously when it's grown in its natural habitat, it's going to be the most potent it can be. It's going to be the strongest it can be and have everything in that essential oil that's needed to protect that plant from the elements that it encounters. Whereas if you grow an essential oil plant in a controlled environment, especially if it's in a greenhouse, then it's not going to have such a powerful immune system. You're going to lessen the power of that oil. And you also want to refer that when you're sourcing and when harvesting these oils, doTERRA have researched down to the time of day. So not just the time of year and the amount of time that these plants have to be grown for, but down to the time of day that these plants are harvested makes such a difference. And also the process of harvesting, that's different depending on the essential oil they're trying to extract. So all of these things come together to produce the purest and most potent essential oil that we have on this earth today. I then just spend a second just mentioning the co-impact sourcing, because it's something that I'm very passionate about and I feel most people like to just know. So I just briefly mentioned that as far as doTERRA can, they will source these essential oils from developing countries, so they can also make an impact on the local economy as well. So they're trying to help build the economy in developing countries. And this is done in a process called co-impact sourcing. So they work very closely in partnership with the local farmers, and they help to build up the community as well. So it's all about a long-term contract as well. They don't just have short-term contracts. They're building relationships and working with the farmers who know how to grow these plants. They're the professionals. But it's a very close partnership, so very carefully monitored by doTERRA to make sure all the standards are met. Okay, so then you want to go through the three main ways you can take the oils. So you'll address aromatically, topically, and when you say topically, you can say because these oils are so pure, you can apply these directly to the skin. But it's very important to also mention at this stage that because everybody has different skin sensitivities, that we recommend using them in conjunction with the carrier oil to begin with, and to test them on the bottom of your feet first of all, just to make absolutely sure that you are fine with this particular oil, because everybody can react slightly differently. It's also good to note that if you do have a slight reaction, then all you need to do is just to use a bit of carrier oil on that area to calm that reaction down, but it won't cause any lasting damage. And then you move on to the very exciting aspect of doTERRA, and it's good to then remind them, because of the purity and because they're 100% pure, absolutely guaranteed, that these essential oils can be taken internally. And when I talk about this, I just like to say that that gives you another option of taking these oils, another way. So again, because we're all very different, sometimes just putting an oil on topically isn't as effective as if when we take them internally. So it just gives another way of taking the oils. And especially when you have a stomach condition or digestive problem, then often internally is much more effective. And also, you can also talk about how internal you can take them in food as well. That's a really good and quite a lovely, enjoyable way of taking the oils. And at this point, you might want to pass around some hummus that you've got with your lemon in, or some of your chocolates, and let them actually experience taking them internally. You want to briefly mention the essential oil safety, which you won't go through. Okay, so the main section, then you want to spend about 25 minutes on this section, because this is the really fun section. This is the section everybody really wants to know about. You're going to literally pass around each oil in the family physician kit and let them smell it, let them taste it if you've got something with it in. If you've got little On Guard beadlets that you can buy, then by all means, and there's peppermint beadlets, then let people take one of those. You know, you want to help them have an experience with each one of these oils. So as you pass them around, don't bombard them with a ton of information. I know it's quite hard because you know how many things it can help with, but just give them the main benefits of that oil. Especially if you do have a personal experience, and that's something good to share, or something that you've experienced while sampling others. And at this point, definitely, if you know people, who are your guests that have had an experience with that oil, then you definitely want to get them to share. So you can even say, you know, for each oil, does anybody here have an experience with this oil? And especially if you've got some of your team there, then get them talking at this point as well. It's quite nice to get a bit of other people talking and sharing their experiences. Now, depending on the audience, we have also shared some scientific journals references. We've referenced some of the research that's been carried out that we've found from PubMed. So PubMed is a very good resource to go and have a look at if you are interested in the scientific side of it. And then, of course, if you want to just go online and type in Johns Hopkins and Vanderbilt Hospital, then there is quite a lot of research and exciting developments there with the essential oils. So we often refer to that as well. It's just quite nice to kind of name drop with hospitals and talk about actual research that's been carried out. It just adds credibility again to the class. And then once you've done that, so you spent 25 minutes passing around the oils. And of course, I forgot to say, but when you get to the deep blue, that's when you want to ask everybody how they're feeling. So ask those that have had the deep blue put on them at the beginning of the class how they're now feeling. And more times than not, we have great experiences with that. We've had, you know, people have extreme, you know, amazing reactions from their arthritis in their hands, like going in the class, so it's just not anywhere near as painful. We've had people with frozen shoulder, feeling so much better just after those 20 minutes, people with back pain, so many experiences with the deep blue. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask them. And if they haven't had that amazing reaction, then don't worry about that either. I just then say to them, you know, sometimes you need to apply this a few times to get a reaction. Because I know that I have to do that when I have back pain. I have to apply it about 3 or 4 times, sometimes more than that, before my back pain goes. So we just put it on again and then say you can feel free to put it on again at the end of the class. So that's a really good thing to do. So when you have done all of that, you're then going to want to spend a couple of minutes on the lifelong vitality. So here they are. Now, if you have the nutrient pack, which is just the Microplex and the Zeomega, then you just talk about that. We will be doing future webinars where we'll be discussing the lifelong vitality in detail because it's quite complex. But you don't need to understand it at all. Basically what this is it's a supplement. And it's a very good supplement. It's been heavily researched, again, of course, by doTERRA, and the fish oils, for example, are certified pure therapeutic grade fish oils. So there's no metals in them. They're totally pure. And everything has been so carefully researched so that all of the ingredients are in the ratio they need to be and in the form that they need to be so that our body can readily absorb them and utilize them. Okay, so that's really important because a lot of supplements out there are pretty much useless because your body cannot absorb them, whereas these you can. Now, just briefly then, the Microplex are your vitamins and minerals that your body needs. And I often mention that because our soils are so deficient now of nutrients, that it's very hard to get all the nutrients and minerals that we need from our foods. Even our vegetables and fruits are so depleted these days. So then also the Zeomegas, they're the fish oils, and that's the omega-3s and the omega-6s in exactly the right balance that they need to be for your body to be able to utilize them. And this one also contains 9 doTERRA essential oils. So once you've spoken about all the different essential oils in your class, and you'd have spoken about frankincense and how incredible frankincense is, you'll mention that frankincense is in this. So you're taking frankincense every single day, which literally everybody could do with taking. And you can also mention clove, because that is the highest natural antioxidant there is, way higher than blueberries. So that's a really good oil to have in there that everyone needs every day as well. So you can just mention that. And then the alpha CRS, that is helping with your mitochondrial producing cells. So certainly as we get older or we get stressed, the amount of mitochondria our body makes is a lot less. and therefore that affects our energy levels and makes us feel tired, which a lot of people out there feel tired. So this helps support that system in our body to help produce more mitochondria. So all of these three work together to really help your body reach optimum health. And it's a great platform that everybody will benefit from. And then it helps to enhance the benefit of the oils, because obviously the healthier your body is and the better your body's working and the more nutrients it has, the more receptive it's going to be to them using the essential oils on top of that. So they work very well together. And this Lifelong Vitality is actually the #1 selling product in doTERRA. So it's very good. So I just briefly mentioned that. And then if you have your own experience, this is a really good time to share it. So I'll just quickly share mine. I think some of you may have heard this already, but when I first came into doTERRA, I had quite severe fatigue. It was borderline chronic fatigue, and I was suffering quite badly from anxiety. So I thought I'd give these a go. And so I went on them, and within 2 weeks, my anxiety levels went right down. And after 6 weeks, my energy levels started really increasing. And so that was about 1.5 years ago, and I'm still on them today. I did try and come off them, but I noticed a big difference in my energy and my anxiety levels again. So I love this product. So I go into that in a little bit more detail in the class. But that's pretty much, you want to show someone a powerful experience. If you don't have one, then perhaps borrow someone else's until you do. Okay, so now we're at the end of the class and it's time to close. So you want to make sure, as I mentioned before, that you leave enough time. So at least 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want to be hurrying this bit. Now, as we mentioned, we set up the close at the beginning, so people are expecting this part. So you now want to refer back to the handouts. So just really simply, just pick up the enrollment handout and say, okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm now going to teach you how you can get the oils for the best price. So there are 2 ways you can purchase your oils. There's retail and there's wholesale. Now retail is okay if you're just going to buy 1 oil, but if not, then it's really not worth doing. The wholesale price is like a Costco membership, where you do a one-off payment of £24, and then you can purchase everything you want to from then on at 25% off the retail cost. So it's an amazing offer. And then I'll say at the end of that year, you can then renew this by just spending £15, and you'll get a free peppermint, which is worth more than that. So that compensates that renewal fee. Now, I'll also go on to mention the other benefits of a wholesale account, because they don't just get 25% off their oils. What they're getting is a service. And that's a really big part of this. They're going to have you or whoever the sponsor or enroller is as their support through their journey of using these essential oils. So you're going to explain that. You're going to say, we offer a wellness consultation. So we make sure that you're completely confident with how to use these oils and how to access your account. And you can feel free to ask any questions then, and we'll be there to support you as and when you need it. So it's good to mention that. It's also good to mention that we have a Facebook group. So we can add people to the Facebook group, which is great. So you can see what other people write, and there's a support network there. And then, of course, you can mention that there will be some further essential oil classes, and there's some more education that's going to come. So this is all they have with a wholesale account. You really want to show them how amazing that account is. And then you can go on to say, now to save even more money, doTERRA have produced a couple of kits that you can purchase, which saves you a lot more money. Because not only do the kits save you money because you get a lot of oils for a good price, but the enrollment fee is also included in these kits. So that's a really good way to sell the kits. And then on our enrollment form, we have a picture of the physician's kit and the home essentials kit, because they're probably the main 2 that most people are going to go for at the beginning. And so at this point, I'll then explain the difference between those 2 kits. And I'll just hold up the 2 bottles, so the 5ml bottle and the 15ml bottle. And we'll explain how, in the physician's kit, you get 5ml bottles, And in the Home Essentials kit, you get exactly the same bottles, but for just twice the price, you get 3 times the amount of oil, and you also get a diffuser. So once you've said that, if people do have, a bigger budget, then they're probably going to be more swayed to go for the Home Essentials kit, because it's definitely the better value for money kit. Okay, and then you'd say to them, so if you would like to open up an account, then what you need to do is just to fill out that form tonight and choose which kit you would like to get, and then just hand it to us and we can process your account, your order for you. We'll open up your account and then your account will be yours. So from that point onwards, you can order as and when you want to, and the oils always get sent to your home. So that's pretty much what I say about that, about getting their own oils. And then I'll lead into the LRP and I'll say, with your wholesale account, there's also another option to save even more money, and that's through the Loyalty Rewards program. So I literally will not spend very long on this part, because as you can imagine, and those of you who have done your own class, by this point you're feeling like you have given them a lot of information, and you might be getting some kind of hazy glazes at this point. So just, it's important to mention it, but not to go into loads of detail. So I just briefly mentioned this is the most cost-effective way to purchase your oils. And it's important to kind of re-emphasize, because people do get confused at this point. So just make a point of saying that, with your wholesale membership, you have no obligation to order. You can order as and when you want to. But what doTERRA have found is that quite often people find that they want to buy at least one oil a month, whether it's just lemon, because they're drinking lemon in their water all the time. People seem to want to add more oils to their collections to help with all the other ailments they suffer from. And the Loyalty Rewards program is set up for that benefit. So if you're looking out and everyone's kind of falling asleep, then you wrap it up. And so you just quickly mention that the Loyalty Rewards program is like having a Tesco card or a Boots loyalty card. So as you spend each month, you get to collect points. And then really just say that we'll cover more of this in the wellness consultation. But it's a really good way of collecting more points and getting more of your oils as you spend. Now I've just put here, this isn't something you'll just mention there and then, but it's a reminder to me that what some people do like to do is that when they go around to speak to people individually at the end, so once you've done all your talking, then you can have an incentive for those people that make an order this month. You can then say, well, if you want to make an order next month, then you'll get a free book. So you could offer them a free Modern Essentials book or the Essential Life book. So that's something that's a personal thing. You can kind of have a think about that. But it is quite a good idea, because obviously if they get a reference book, then they're going to be more likely to be a long-term purchaser, and they're going to really fall in love with the oils more, which is what you want. So it's quite a good incentive to help people to make that second order. But that's up to you. Okay, so here's the progression chart. So if you haven't got a tired class and they're looking like, yeah, they want to know more, then you go for it. And you can then ask them to refer, on our enrollment form that we have this progression chart at the bottom. And if you buy some tear pads, they all have this on them as well. So it's quite good to have something in your class with this on, because it's visual, and whether you share this with them one-on-one or with the class, it's a really good way of kind of explaining the progression. So for those that can handle it, you then want to briefly explain about the point system. So you've said the Loyalty Rewards program is there to benefit those who want to purchase every single month. So then you want to say something like, in doTERRA, there's a doTERRA currency. So every single product has a points value, which is called the PV. And the PV is usually slightly more than the pound value. So for example, lemon is about £8.70 and it has a PV of about 11 PV. So you then explain that each month, if you spend 50 PV, then, which is about £38, then this counts as a qualifying loyalty rewards month. And what that means is you collect points. So as soon as you spend 50 PV or more, you qualify to collect points. And it counts as a qualifying month along your progression chart. So I'll then get them to refer to this chart, and I'll say, the first 3 months that you do the Loyalty Rewards program, if you spend 50 PV in each of those 3 months, you'll get 10% back in points for everything that you spend. So every time you spend 50 PV, you'll get 5 PV back in points that will start collecting in your doTERRA account, and you can exchange those points for free products when you want to. Now, after doing that for 3 months, you then jump up to 15%. So on month 4, if you spend 50 PV, you'll then get 15% back in free products. And then by month 7, it jumps up to 20%. So if you spend 50 PV, it's about £35, you'll then get 20% back in points. And then this goes up to 25% after 10 months, so that by the end of 13 months, on top of the 25% that you're getting off the cost of the oils for your wholesale account, you're getting a 30% further back in product points. So it's important to note that difference too, that the wholesale account gives you 25% off the actual cost of the oils. And then with the Loyalty Rewards program, you then have the opportunity of getting up to a further 30% back in product points every time you spend 50 PV. And you can then use those points to purchase free products. So it really makes a big difference to the cost of your oils, and it's definitely worth doing. So it's also good to mention to people that, you don't have to do a purchase of 50 PV every month, because you don't have to do it consecutively. You just have to do 3 months. That could be over a 6-month period. But at that point, you need to say you do need to spend something each month, but that only has to be a very small amount. So the smallest item you can buy in doTERRA is a lip balm, which is about 3.5 PV, and that just helps to maintain the points you've already collected. So to maintain points, you just need to buy a lip balm. But if you want it to count as a qualifying month and collect points, then you need to spend 50 PV. Then if they're still able to handle a bit more, or you might want to leave this for wellness consultation, you can say that doTERRA offer other lovely things as well for those on the Loyalty Rewards program, whereas when you spend a certain amount, you can get a free product of the month. And just so you're aware, just in case you're not, that has to be done by the 15th of the month, and you need to spend 125 PV to qualify. Okay, so you've done the LRP, so then you want to just refer to booking further classes. So again, you can refer back to the beginning of the class, and you can say, for those of you that have sat here and you've thought about friends and family that you really want to help with these oils, I'd be really happy to come to your home and teach a class. And so all you need to do is to provide the guests and the venue, and we'll do the rest. And you could then say to them, there's different options you can do them, so it's up to you. You could offer them a gift straight away, there and then. So some people like to have a bag of gifts there that they could often say, if you book a class tonight, you can come and choose a gift from my bag. Or you could say to them, we'll give you some, when you host a class, we'll give you some gifts at the class to say thank you. You could also then offer samples. So some people like to offer samples to give them, which is a great idea. So if someone is going to host a class and they know a few of their friends have specific ailments, then it is, I think, a very good idea to give them some samples, as long as you say to them, if you could please pass me their email addresses and I can follow up with them. Because if you can follow up, it just makes it more powerful. And then at the very end, once you've said about hosting a class and told them to tick the box on the feedback form, you just want to wrap up the class and say, I really hope you've enjoyed the class tonight, and then share a bit more of your passion of the business. Share, the reason why you love doing this as a business. And, if anyone is interested in learning more about how they can do this as a business, then please tick that box on the feedback form and we'll be happy to share more with you. We've just found that's just a really lovely way of, no pressure, of just introducing the business to people that are just even thinking about it as a possibility. It doesn't mean they have to commit there and then. It's not a serious question that they have to absolutely know, because then you won't get anyone ticking that box. But if you offer it in that way, where they can just tick a box if they'd like to know more, then we have found quite a few people do that. And then you can chat to them a little bit afterwards and set up a time, or just cover it in the wellness consultation and set up another appointment to talk to them about the business. Okay, so we've come to an end. That was quite a long one. So here's the homework for the week, if you choose to accept. So this is a good video that I came across on the Share Success website. So you just go to Share Success and click on Launch, and then go to Enroll, and you'll see a video there called The Psychology of Closing. So I thought that was very good. So I highly recommend that. And there are also some other good videos if you'd like to watch them on there. Just go on to Share Success and click on the Launch tab and go to Present. Other bit of homework is to write a script for your first class if you haven't done your first class already, and practice parts you're not confident in. So just practice them. Then to fill your classes. So last week I challenged you to set some dates for your classes. So now you want to continue sampling, as you've already started sampling, and inviting people to those classes so you can fill them up. And then, so my last challenge is to challenge yourself to book one class from each class that you do, and to think of your own strategy. So think of the different options we've discussed, and maybe there's some other ones you can come up with, and prepare, if you need to, a handout. I know there have been some people that have actually prepared a handout with pictures of the gifts that people can receive depending on how much people purchase on the night. So depends how you feel about that. You could prepare something like that if that's more your style, or come up with your own strategy. Okay, that is the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute Becky again, if I can get back to it. Okay. And we'll answer some questions. Hello, Becky.
Hi.
Do you have
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Do you have anything to add while I try and locate my questions?
Well, yes, I can see the questions here.
Okay, brilliant.
One of them is about the Vitality Pack.
Okay.
Natalie's been finding that it didn't work. It's not working after 2 weeks. But actual fact, I always recommend that people go on the Vitality Pack for 3 months. And I often find people don't notice the difference in the first month.
No.
Sometimes there can even be, like a reverse, and some things can be worse in the second month. But by the third month, you'll see a massive difference. Now, it may be that you do need the Alpha CRS. That's got a lot of good herbs in it and things for nervous system,